into this stuff. No, I didn't. But we do all the time. No, I do. I carry it around. That's right. Let's do it. I think I love that. Oh my God. I can't wait on I'm gonna run down. All right, I've got a booming voice. Luckily, you don't have it's possible. Yeah, I was just wondering. Do you want to see it?
Yes, absolutely.
Why don't you do that? You're going to be doing things.
Okay.
I'm going to go check. Absolutely. You need I was just quickly change the setting.
Yeah, right now. Just sign it. Let me give you a, and just sign it right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are the mics. Well, and cameras.
Trying to get that. Last year I told them, I was like, I just need to tell them what it is. And they stayed up for like, okay, they just answered. I want something else. I did that to everyone. Oh, I told them. Like, I will wait.
So you think we're good?
But they don't want to talk yet. Seems like they're.
So you think we're good?
Last year.
Okay.
Yeah. We love it. Anyone that hasn't signed in, please just sign in before you leave and anyway.
Excellent. Good morning, I guess. Not afternoon yet. Shane Khalil. I am the region manager for AWS for New York. I lead our higher education academic medicine team in New York. Brittany Layden in the back will be includes Brittany Layden handles the account and works closely with the ITS team, both here as well as in Ithaca. Really excited to be partnered with Sumant this morning to talk to you about Amazon Q, which is our latest generative AI chatbot service that is now in preview. And just point out that while we're working with Cornell and have been in Cornell for many years, there's a lot of adoption of AWS services. This particular service is still under evaluation. So if you start to think about your use cases, and this hopefully sparks some ideas of how you might use it, Vip and Vinay and that entire team would gladly listen and hear and learn more about what your use case might be and how they might help you with this. So with that said, to get through a little bit about it, right? I think you've probably all heard ChatGPT and others in the market, right? Today is from a generative AI perspective. This is our generative AI solution that internalizes your data sets, right? So if you think about typical LLMs on the market today, when you are working with those LLMs, you're leveraging data sets that might be publicly available, privately available, collaboration amongst multiple data sets, but not necessarily specific data to your organization, your entity, your environment, right? This is our tool to ingest those data sets that are very specific to your environment and ultimately leverage them for that chatbot functionality that you start to maybe come to enjoy from a ChatGPT or other type of services of that nature. Generate content, start to understand and help you evaluate that data that you've ingested, maybe curate that data set and start to think about from a generative AI perspective. So when you think about some of those risks and challenges relative to generative AI, right, we could spend the next 24 hours unpacking these, right? There's a lot. We're still in the early days of generative AI, ML, period. When we think about how do you start to, from a security perspective, address those challenges, Amazon Q is meant to do that because, again, it is your data living and residing in your VPC, in our environment, which is your private network, and only your data. It never leaves that data set. It never goes to train a different model. It never goes outside of that. And it's only curating data from the data you've given it access to, which we're going to demo here momentarily. So a lot of these risks relative to sharing confidential information and other security type issues are avoided in doing that. It stays within your realm. We talked a little bit about these hot use cases moments ago. Right, you start thinking about streamlining your access to answers. You start thinking about generating summaries from the content that you've ingested to it and being able to quickly do that and then accelerate content creation, right? So as you ingest those knowledge bases or web crawlers, we're going to demonstrate here momentarily today, which is what Sumant has built with our team, to where we've taken a knowledge base from Cornell, we've given it access via a web crawler to a website. It's going to be able to generate answers, which you've come to evolve for years, been interacting with chatbots and call center environments and that nature, where it's a if-then statement. This is much more relative to your data and material to the data sets that you've given, giving very curated answers. So with that said, thank you. This is our contact information. If anyone wants to take a shot of that, that's the team that supports Cornell. But that'll turn it over to Sumant.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone enjoying the SMARTFest. So, as Shane mentioned, I will go through a couple of use cases we take to show how we can use Amazon Q in our scenario. So, we did create two training models. One by going to our ITS website, so going through all the articles and information that's in ITS website. And the other model, what we did is we take some AV articles from our service model. where we have the internal and external KV articles, and see how we can use the LLM and AI to help different players, field technicians, just talking to Paula about what you mentioned on use case, and any new employee joining the organization, what is available for them, what else, what information they can, instead of going through all the websites and links, how this can help get the answer. So I have it in the preview mode that's launched here, and I also have a couple of questions that we tested, and I'll try not to break, and hopefully every demo audience will have some problems. So let's see how this works.
Oh, Jesus.
So now let's take one question here. Give me the latest news in biopharma medicine. So let's try that.
So can you say that loud because it's difficult to read?
Oh, so let's see if I can zoom in.
You go put it back in. I'll read it out.
Yeah. So the question that I'm going to try to ask the AI here is, give me the latest news in wild cornell medicine in bullet point. So one of the main thing is the AI says how good your prompt, the question is. It depends on the response will be easy, and sometimes it may say, sorry, I did not understand. So we just have to rephrase the question so that it gives the response. So let's try that here. Okay, finally there it is. Okay, so it went through the ITS website, which we already have it as learned, trained this model, and then it also provides the different sources of one, which is its.wild.com and .edu, and also it goes through a subdomain that we have, the main domain that we have, wild.com and .edu. So it went through the both sites that during the learning process, and it picked all the references, the different links, like it provides the response in bullet point. Now the same thing, let's say if we try another question, let's start with the SMARTFest. So what type of prizes the users can get? So where is SMARTFest happening and when, and what type of prizes can be won? So let's see, again, it depends on the data that it already learned from the ITS side. So yeah, the cool prizes that can be won including amazing raffle prizes, iPod and iPad. I think so.
Oh, that's
So the link. So it provides that website link that directly takes to that particular page in ITS site. So now let's see if it can give us some policies. Or let's see what this does. So what wild cornell medicine stands on security and privacy. So let's ask this question and see what it comes back. Oh, am I audible? Let us.
While this is thinking, can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you ask a question, the AI, the learning or whatever, can you adjust the length of the answer that you get? Like when you asked about news about Cornell, did you tell 10 bullet points or 20? Because you said the latest, right?
Yes. So that's a very good question. I think it is possible. It's based on what responses that we want, how limit the content need to be. But let me.
You can refine your answer pool dependent on as you continue to train the model, start to work with it, you can get more quality data from the data that you want, depending on your specific use cases.
Well, how do you do that? Because like I've tried like, hey, just give me resend it to me, and it'll still give me like
In Amazon Q or in a chatbot function like this. Yeah. So again, it's typically in these tools like Amazon Q, you refine it with asking it exactly what you want. Like give me three bullet points rather than 10.
Hey, why don't we try that?
Yeah.
Let's see.
That might be too.
Okay, so I'll say, give me the top 3 news. whether it did respond about the security and privacy and some details and again the sources. So yep, so there we go. So it just gave only 3 goals. So
Go cute.
so so now let's switch to some of the KB articles that we have.
I suspect by date, right? If it's looking, that's probably looking at your public releases on your website and defining, and these are the most
I
recent.
don't think that's the because we would have to provide them.
You could ask it something like, provide me news on SARS-CoV, or provide me news on bioinformatics, and it would look to see if there's new news on those subjects.
Yeah, sorry.
That's what I was curious about, because the question was kind of vague, it just said latest news.
Sure.
Is it looking for something that says latest news? Because how did it know to pull those, whatever, 10 articles?
I think again, probably date related. So
And then
when you,
what's the limit? Like, how does it know what the limit is? You're giving it something that's rather vague, and it pulled a very specific number of articles.
so how it's refined, how many it pulled to begin with before you define, give me 3.
Right, because you just said latest news and it pulled like 10.
Sure.
It just decided on its own? Or is there, I mean,
I'm sure there's an algorithm behind how it looks at the data set behind, and if there's 100 PR releases, how it defines down, it boils it down to the latest. It could be that the news on the website is you only curate your own. You only have 10 articles, and they're all within the month of January. And it pulled that. I'd have to go dig deep to understand. Those are great questions. We can certainly dive deep with anybody if they want to explore this further.
Yeah, for use cases, maybe look at the algorithm as like Shane mentioned, those are things that you can further train for your specific use case.
Yeah, I think that will be one of the, while we create the model and make it to learn and train it. So those are some of the parameters that actually we have to maybe pour into it. So that's something is, again, this is still in a preview state where we are exploring the solution. And so all of those questions definitely will help, and that's one of the items that we're going to add. This again, going to the website information. So I just want to quickly switch on to the knowledge articles that we already have in our system. So if we train those, train the model to use them. So this is one of the questions that I tried before to make sure the model works. So how to submit time off? We got a different question here. Let's see how to download the plugin desktop app for as an non-exempt employees if they want to know how to install, or even a field technician if they want to get the plugin app installed. So it should bring that data and then also provide the link to the article.
So in this example, Sumant, that data is in our ServiceNow database.
Yes.
So you're actually querying our local system as opposed to just going to the public website.
Not in this version. This version I exported the PDFs out and then all the KBs. So then we train the model. But in real scenario, yes, it could connect to ServiceNow or any other system where all these articles are posted. Then it will train the model. And so it's going to be on a schedule like, so if some new article is published today, then it's going to be set up to learn automatically all the new and delta so that it can be up to date.
And again, it's only material to what you give it, right? So it's never going to go outside of what the data you give it access to and try to train the model. It's only going to look at what you curated and provided.
Yes.
Sumant has a question.
Oh,
Sorry, for the model, did you come up with your prompts and then give it the information, or vice versa?
Came up
Because
with
it
the
only-
post information, so
It
ingest the
only
information.
has what you give it, right?
Correct, yeah.
So I need to figure out what my question is before I give it information.
Good point, to a degree, right? But there is the ability to start generating content from that content, right? So yes, you would want to know generally, Sumant knew that he wanted to ask IT related questions, so from the knowledge base, and that's the information it would need. But it could also then generate results from that. It can summarize that data and provide ideas and thoughts around that data that you provide, which you may not know that you want to ask those types of questions until you start.
Because I'm thinking in terms of like, if I gave it a case and I told it it's this person, it's this age, it's this illness, is it going to come to the same assumption that I want it to come to, or can it make its own diagnosis? Can it change? If I tell it what I want it to know, it cannot create some other, you know what I mean? Is
Like
it
a
thinking?
prognosis on a.
Yeah, like can it diagnose something that I didn't tell it?
You gave
I
it the
gave it-
parameters, but it's not, if you haven't given it data to like other medical centers information,
Right.
their findings, it's not gonna be able to access that to inform.
Correct.
Got it.
It's
It
only
can't
going to
create
take
its
from-
own thing.
Yes, good,
Okay.
great point.
Okay.
And in a clinical
Just a
setting, that's a very important.
What's our ability to connect new or other data sources that are proprietary to the institution? So for instance, like in our department, we may have custom data marts, are we allowed to do that?
So that's an internal question, probably from a security perspective.
So I can take a quick pass at that. So right now we're in pilot phases with all of these generative models. We're looking for specific requests that people might have. If there's PHI or PII, and that generally speaking right now, we don't want people to train those models with PHI. But we are taking pilot projects where we can take very narrow data sets, preferably de-identified, so that people can start experimenting.
Would you mean that you can upload as an attachment data set, or you ask the AI to
Or
find
specific pilots, right? Right now, this is not generally
Yeah.
available to
it? Yeah,
everyone.
I understand.
So yes, you can train it with specific data, but right now, no PHI. It's up to faculty to define, or we're looking at administrative use cases as well.
Like a great use case is bring up these knowledge bases, like you have a new team member and you want to upload all of your documents and processes and who to work with, so that new hire with a new organization can ask questions like, who do I ask this type of question to? Or what are the guidelines for this? So that's an example of a use case.
Call center use cases, right, to
Yeah.
augment and help make more efficient those resources that are in at the end of the call center environment, right? You get one call, you get a million questions. It's not to replace that, it's to augment, right? It's to accelerate that answer and productivity of those individuals. Those are good use cases. So a lot of administrative to.
So is this kind of designed to be sort of an institution-wide product? So like our institution would create a whole product for the whole team, or can we do it like, you know, little department kind of create our own department around it?
So, as I mentioned, right, so it's still in the pilot phase. So in fact, more details will come in the future once we have the product and how the service is going to be. So, yes, so definitely that will be one of the topic that's going to be how it's going to be rolled out and who will have access to how these models will be, but based on once we have the finalized service.
So the teams be able to have like their own sort of access to create our own, would it have to be done by an IT team, right?
You want to repeat your question?
I'm sorry, I did not.
Sorry, I was just wondering if it would like, if this can be taken by a department or a division and create our own kind of platform, or whether that has to be done by ITS.
So what we're working on now with AWS and with Azure, for people who are interested on the OpenAI side as well, is to come up with these small pilots in a secure instance, so that we can work with you to have it in a completely private environment. And I've gotten several questions about how people can request these kinds of pilots, and we're working on that right now. There will be a request form. We're looking for very small projects right now, experiments that we can do quickly, easily, with any non-regulated. So,
As an individual right now,
Uh-huh.
would I just be able to go and use the tool or not? As an individual.
so today, I don't know the current status
So
of
it-
Amazon Q specifically, as to whether it's publicly available in preview for us to be able to test it.
It's not publicly available yet. It's been in preview mode, and that's why our partnerships with the institutions that we're working with today are gaining access, and Cornell is on that list. It's going to be publicly available shortly.
Does Amazon Q have any additional accuracy measures above and beyond like what ChatGPT might have, or like the accuracy of that?
So the accuracy.
Are you like asking this person, like statistically speaking?
Like, does it have any measures and guidelines and things that like enhance accuracy? It's like for example, you asked it what SMARTFest was, and I gave it last year's date. It was like fine, it's like not totally inaccurate, right? Because it was nearly. But like what kinds of things does Amazon Q do to like prevent those or minimize hallucinations and ensure the accuracy? Or like for your question about like what is looking for the latest, what I would do is like run it like 10 or 20 times and like go and back check it on like on the internet and see what it seems to have pulled out, you know? But yeah, just like what does Amazon Q do?
There are few features coming up. Again, this is a tool which is in review. There are features coming up where you could provide feedback of how valid the answers are and let the language model run through all the scanning of the data and see if we can improve the answers on it. So there's a feedback loop also, which is a feature which is going to come in the future for the class. If that answers the question.
So the users have to treat.
Yeah, in case of those
Feedback
edge
loop.
scenarios where, you know, you feel the answers are not.
Why do we get paid? Why do we get paid for
It's above my pay grade.
We're not.
Young man,
When you manually look at situations, the goal is still to increase productivity, spend less time in a different way.
But you can't get the tool the way it is currently now. To get it better, you need everyone to be using it that way.
But it's still more efficient than the way you're doing
Is
it
it?
without AI.
Oh, I don't know. I would go to ChatGPT this thing, honestly. If I
Well,
want.
and we wouldn't encourage you to do that with Q either, right? It's back to Vivian's point, or to Vinay's point. It is select use cases right now, right? And like when you start thinking about where it might be administratively fit and the ability to train it and work through feedback loops and start to make it more effective, it definitely has its place. And I said it at the beginning of the session, and I'll say it here at the end. This is early days, right? There's a lot of roadmap ahead where all Gen AI is going outside of AWS and everywhere else.
It's technically acting as a virtual agent at this point, right, versus a content development.
I apologize to cut the conversation short.
Yeah.
But we are at time and we are gonna do the raffle. And then we are gonna have to ask you guys to, if you're staying for the next demo.
All right, so folks, anybody with the ticket 602335, winner. There we go. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Amazon, thank you for the presentation.
Thanks, everyone.
Like all the questions, thank you.
Yes.
No, I'm thinking about
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Sure.
You know, the one thing we didn't want was this year.
Oh, okay.
You guys see around? Okay, sorry. So this is the hardware demo.
Great job.
Who's now?
Carter. Carter.
You're the one for this? I am.
There is,
The wireless and stand up front, or you want to connect? I've got an adapter for old and for big and small. So. Struggles with everything. The problem is the adapters themselves. Well, this hasn't moved from my home office. So.
guys, did you sign in and you got a ticket? Great.
I'm here as moral support. Appreciate it. Yeah, people don't realize. Back in 6 months, especially if this is what you use. It's most of the time you're in the marketing side. You don't see it. Well, like, yeah, somewhere to be something. The whole connect the wireless display, it works really, really well. Yeah, so here, you can have that ability to wireless as long as any kind of everything hits home office and background the unit. It's great because it bypasses all the different platforms and it's great to go Zoom on a freaking Android. Really? Nice.
You just missed EWS. You attending? You can go in as a but sign in.
Like clockwork, every SMARTFest. That's the only time I ever see you.
Hey, Colin.
Doing I. It's no raffle for you.
Well, we can't at all.
Oh, no. No, we-
You're one of us. Sorry.
You get the satisfaction of running.
Yeah, do they have the, you're on your insurance? Do they have the insurance?
But you still keep your.
They had it, I think, last year.
No, the only thing I saw that was these ads.
I bought it.
Yes,
Yeah, right up.
Wow.
It's only 20 minutes. Good luck. So are you in this hardware demo? Hardware open science?
Demos. Because I think this is like home, the library. Oh, okay.
Where are the poll stations?
Sorry.
Hi.
Library Commons poll station number 1. Library Commons, area. It's not the general, it's not the collaboration.
I don't think you need this.
Hopefully they'll listen.
You told me yesterday. Oh, she gets ticket. There's a ticket. Great. Don't get signed in.
Yeah, I was trying to
You want to get started?
Yeah, I was gonna say, should we actually get going?
Okay.
So just for context, and I'll preface, this is gonna be very medicine focused / health sciences, so this sounds boring to you.
I'm here for the gift.
Sorry?
I'm here for the gift, whatever.
Oh, there, you get to learn a few things about this. All right. Cool. Thanks all for coming. Lovely to be here. I'll try to make this not boring, and I'll skip through some of the irrelevant stuff, but that's me, that's what I do, my colleague guitar, etc. Food. Okay. Essentially, I was going to give a quick overview of who we are, what we do, and kind of the arrangement we have at Cornell, and what we're doing in kind of the open science open access space. Cool. Has anybody heard of Carter before? So Carter is a 134-year-old health sciences publisher. So it's all we do is, well, it started off as journals and books. It's evolved since then, but it's a Swiss-based company, and we've got offices around the world. My team is scattered all over North America. I actually sit outside of Toronto, but I do have some people on my team that are in and around New York. We focus on basic clinical and translational medicine in all subject sets of medicine. I guess these are some facts and figures. We have about 130 journals, 39 of which are open access. And what that means in our world is you remove the paywall, similar to newspapers and things of that nature, so that users, whether doctors or others, students can access the content free of charge. We publish over 6,000 articles a year. We are a small to medium-sized publisher, so we're not a gigantic publisher publishing 100,000 articles. Really was going to talk about open access and all that kind of fun stuff, but the idea behind it is, again, it's accessibility for all in the sake of advancing science, and that's why kind of this movement was born about 15 years ago in the Netherlands, and it's kind of progressed throughout the years. It talks here a little bit about what is a 200 plus transformative agreements. What that means, to put it into context in non-publishing terms, is some of the obstacles that whether it's students or doctors or others in our world face is A, it costs a lot of money to read content, and B, it costs a lot of money to publish content. What a transformative agreement does is it transforms the cost by eliminating paywalls and focusing on one element of us kind of helping you publish your content as a service provider. So we do things like, the typesetting layout, the peer review process, et cetera, et cetera. But you're removing essentially more than 50% of the cost to the end user. As a European firm, we are quite progressive when it comes to that, and we're far ahead of the spectrum in comparison to competitors in the market when it comes to the world of open access. These are just some of the kind of bodies we support that really support open access. Talked a little bit about what is a transformative agreement. Again, there's no grant funding or grant money or faculty money. This is another way that supports the end user in publishing their hard work free of charge. So some of the benefits for institutes, it's very cost effective. So rather than paying for access and then publish, we kind of combine it all into one. For the author, it's further access to content. They get to publish for free. And then for the general public, we've seen it. We've just passed through a global pandemic. Access to knowledge is key. So educating your public, educating the community, and kind of the local communities and the stakeholders involved is quite prudent, particularly when it comes to, in our case, topics of sciences and medicines and vaccines and things like that. I was going to go through this, but there's really no point. But there's essentially a guide. Given the arrangement with Cornell, pretty much anybody that's affiliated with Weill Cornell can read our content, publish their content free of charge on both sides of the spectrum. And I'll show you what the QR code was kind of going to go over. But rather than doing a live demo.
So
Actually,
this is for all 103 papers that you have, or just for some of the journals?
this is for all the journals.
All the
So we have 103 journals. They're all subject sets, and I see here in cell biology. So we have cellular physiology, cellular biology. They can publish into any journal free of charge. So
That's great, because a major concern
it's the cost.
somebody also, someone else, and they say that nature charge them 12,000
Yeah, yeah. They range, the industry average to publish an article, I would say, is around $4,000, maybe $5,000, but some journals are substantially higher than that. So that's the agreement with Cornell is and we don't limit, it's very black and white. So you can publish as much as you want, you can publish it to any journal you want, and it is 100% distant. So the end user does not pay a penny when they do publish it.
So, and the readers at open access, just the subset of everything.
That's a very good question. So right now, 39% of the entire portfolio is open access. The rest remains behind the paywall for reasons we're not going to get into, but we have flipped about 40% of our entire portfolio open access. We also have a
For the rest, like some journals go, they take off the table after like 2 years or 3 years, things like that.
We don't do that for the subscription journals, but for anybody that's Cornell affiliated, you have access to all journals, not just the open access. I forget what I was going to say, but so essentially, this is a guide I put together that's available on the library resources page, and I'm sure Michael and Terry have also last year. I saw an actual printout copy of this. But this helps the end user, whether student, faculty, practicing physician, et cetera. Just it's kind of a guide of. It's not. Essentially, just a step-by-step guide of actually how to, number one, select a journal of relevance based on your title of your manuscript or of the research topic at hand. And then number two, how to actually submit your papers so that you're not paying your article processing charges is what they call them, or APCs. So this guide is available at the school. So if this is down your alley or of interest, definitely reach out to the library team. They'll be able to provide that. But yeah, taking it a step further, beyond just removing the paywall, the other thing I want to talk about is kind of the evolution of what we've done and what we call knowledge transfer. So taking it outside of the research life cycle with your traditional stakeholders like your physicians and your researchers and more into kind of the clinical environment, but also to the general public. And how do we engage with your local communities by not just removing paywalls, because and this is going to be the next slide. Removing paywalls is great, but then some of the jargon and some of the language is kind of not understandable by the general public. And this is where some of the challenges in the industry is how do you measure the impact of research on society when society is reading peer-reviewed articles and they're perhaps not as understandable as, a magazine or a paper or a generic article or whatever the case may be. So something we've done, which is an industry first, is we have focused on something called research outreach. And what research outreach does, so this is an example of a scientific peer-reviewed article. You can see the title can be quite complex and it's unengaging and it's not understandable and so on and so forth. So we see two barriers in advancing health sciences is number one, removing the paywall, which we are working and transitioning towards. But then number two, there's the issue of accessibility where the content is not understandable, it's not engaging, it's not in a language that's understandable by the non-expert community or the non-scientific community is what we hear. So how do we address those challenges? And so what we've done is launch something called Carter Outreach, and it focuses on the dissemination of information. And the dissemination meaning through, distributing content in various mediums. And the medium can be an animation, it could be an article, it could be a podcast. It could be even various forms of engaging formats. So Research Pod is the kind of podcast, so it'll take a peer-reviewed article, it'll translate it into understandable, normal English language, and then end users can listen to this content free of charge. So all of this research outreach content is free of charge. And the idea behind it is because you're building it off of content that's open access. And so we take scientific literature and we turn it into general public language in various formats. Go ahead. And so some of the stuff uses AI, but a lot of the stuff, there's actual product teams building out, whether it's the animation or the video, et cetera, et cetera. But we do leverage AI tools to expedite the process of turning it from a peer-reviewed scientific article into something more digestible.
So there's no way that like they have time for teams to do all of the articles in existence, right? How do they like?
That's a really good question. So this is a paid-for service generally that's done either via hospitals, libraries, think tanks, research centers. We work heavily with the Melinda Gates Foundation and others, so it's just a small subset. And the idea for them is they're publishing for free and they're accessing for free, but they see value in the research impact being done to the public, and this is why essentially they're paying for media tools, right? Go ahead, sir.
I mean, so you discussed with the research, so the researchers has the same
100%. So
in the podcast, or I didn't say no, he's not right, he's not right.
100%. So every single project we've delivered, each user or researcher gets assigned like a product or a project specialist, and they work with them from the moment they submit their article to the end to make sure that the messaging is exactly what they want to convey. And again, the idea is to engage the non-expert community to combat things like disinformation or get the word out. Perhaps, let's use a very basic example of the flu shot. Beyond putting posters around hospitals and things of that nature, perhaps you want to engage your audience of the benefits and the why and the potential risks, et cetera, but in a non-scientific jargon methodology, right? And this is where it comes in and it's engaging and fun. There's a lot of examples online that are out there. So if you go to the YouTube page of, if you just search SciAni, which stands for Science Animated, there's a lot of cool things about perhaps like knee replacement surgeries and what's in it for the user or the patient, sorry, and you know what the actual surgery looks like, et cetera, et cetera. Beyond just using these mediums, what we also do with research outreach at Carter is we actually implement a social media campaign. So beyond just paying for the actual service, we guarantee something like 100,000 impressions across social media channels for relevant stakeholders. And that's a good measurement for societal impact or community impact. Because one of the things, as some of you may be aware, is to get grant money when you're trying to do research, beyond checking the traditional boxes, one of the new things when the White House's Office of Science and Technology announced this Nelson memo is how are you engaging the non-expert community? So that's going to be another requirement to check to say, this is how I plan on engaging the general public. So we do run these social media campaigns and we generate reports for every single project that we do to show this is the impact of this particular piece of research on the general public. And that's it. I'll stop there. If anybody have any generic or non-generic answers, I'm more than happy.
So what sets you apart from other publishers? Like what's
So beyond the traditional journals and books, et cetera. So number one is the engagement of the non-expert community. But number two, again, we're very far ahead in making things accessible by removing the paywall. But lastly, we're, I think, one of 4 publishers around the world that have an STM designation, so scientific, technical, and medical, that has an exclusive focus on biomedicine. Our peer review process when authors are trying to publish is quite rigorous. So, but although we don't have high quantity output, the level of quality is quite high, and we work with hundreds, if not thousands, of very esteemed institutes that kind of trust. Like, for example, Nestle, which is the fast consumer moving good company, has a Nestle nutrition division, which does things like infant formula and other pediatric-oriented things. So we're actually the publisher of choice for them. They publish something called the Nestle Nutrition Institute series, and it's a bunch of series of books. That's both for the general public and practicing pediatricians. So long-winded answer, but quality, consistency, 135 years, and a designation with a very small focus on exclusively biomedicine is kind of the value proposition. And we're not a publicly traded company. It's been passed down generation to generation. It's in its fourth generation now.
You weren't there last year.
I was here last year. I don't think I gave.
Oh,
I travel a lot.
Okay.
Like 100 days a year of travel, so I was definitely here. But bottom right corner, Gabriela Carter is the chairwoman of the board now. To the left, so bottom left hand corner is Dr. Thomas, who was the chairman of the board, but he passed away about 3 years ago. So ever since the company's founding in 1890, it's always been privately held, which has a lot of benefits I'm not going to get into, but I would say that's another distinguishing factor is we're not having to satisfy shareholders and things of that nature, which leaves things a little bit more transparent in the sake of science.
Does Canal already have an agreement?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We've had it for many, many years, but the transformative agreement component, which is allowing users to now publish for free, I think it's in its fourth or fifth year. But yeah, we do have an agreement. So you have access to all the contents, all the journals and books for free, and you can publish for free onto any journal type. And we don't exclude and say, oh, you can only publish in this title or that title. The entire portfolio is open to anybody and affiliates, so Presbyterian.
How did you get news created?
Yeah, so good question. I actually haven't flagged. So I don't know how do you access this stuff? Is it through a main library page, I'm assuming, like a search box, and you can search for things? Is that how you access content at the library?
Yeah.
Or as a Cornell student? Yeah. So beyond that, so if you go to, I don't have Wi-Fi right now. If you go to Carver.com and pick any journal title, let me try to actually do this.
Connected.
Oh, yes, the top one.
This guy?
No, that one,
Not the one, those events? Yes?
Yeah.
No,
No, you have to.
there we go. It's a slow burn. Okay, so there's a few ways you can do it, but essentially, if you want to actually publish an article, just go to a site, and I'll choose any journal.
Slow. Everybody's using it.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to waste time. But, I'm happy to share this with you. But if you go on our site, if you go into, there should be. Okay, there we go. We're in. So if you go to Publishing with Us, and if you go to Publish Your Paper. So first, you got to identify what journals are going to be relevant to your research topic. So let's say you're in audiology. If you go to submit your manuscript, this is where you establish, you have to do a log, like a create a username and password. But there is a guide that I was showing everybody in the room earlier, is how to submit your paper so that you can actually get your article processing charges waived. And this is essentially steps. You find your journal, you select Cornell as your affiliated institute, you choose your publishing option as we call it author's choice. So it's I don't want to get into the technical details of the license types, but you choose that. And then you fill out the generic stuff of why and your theses and the type of manuscript. Is it a research article? Is it a case report? Is it whatever the case may be? And then you just follow the generic submission guidelines. As long as you use your Cornell domain, you have to, because that's one of the kind of checks behind the scenes is to ensure that you're affiliated with the school. And an interesting that I guess I would show is subject areas that we cover is pretty much everything within medicine, but we've put together this new page, so let's look. I saw I met a lot of people from cardiology. If you click into the cardiovascular system kind of subject area,
When you click on it, it'll show you the list of journals and the book series that are affiliated in the subject sets, and then we'll talk about the top downloaded article and the highlights from 2022 and things of that nature. Obviously, all of our content is integrated into all the major databases in the US but around the world, so PubMed and things of that nature, it's all integrated. Yeah, I don't want to bore you too much longer, but thank you for listening. Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks, folks.
All right, folks, we're gonna do the raffle drawing right now, so if you wanna take yours out, see if we got a winner. We're looking for 602-399. That is 602.
You need a drum roll.
399. Oh, great.
That winner!
All right, there we go.
Oh, that's.
There goes my.
Yeah, no, I trust you. It's the honor system here.
Thank you.
It's gonna be my first one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I was guaranteed to win.
Yeah, come back.
What's next?
Dynamite. It just keeps, you know, you need to keep coming back. Okay. Folks, we're starting the Dynamite demo. If you guys would like to attend.
Perfect.
I am.
Moral support.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go wireless and go first, we can also do that.
That'd be great.
You want to do it that way or? So.
What?
You have the Zoom installed on that laptop?
Yeah, I think so.
11:58. Yeah.
Oh, it has, I can't go both?
Hi, how are you?
Let's just do it. Let's just do this.
You know we're on a ticket? Oh, sorry. Actually, it's okay, it's okay. It's all good. No, you have to. You might win the raffle. This is the best part. It's okay. It's all right. We'll get, I guess stuff, we'll put it into the, grand prize raffle. I'm gonna drop my pizza here. If you don't mind just signing in. Oh. Oh, great. Okay, happy to. So I just want to make sure, because I know that they wanted, you already have that. Okay. That's all, yeah. I don't work for the library, I work for ITS. I'm one of the senior liaisons here, and I've been here now for 11 years. So this is just one of the things I want to do. For SMARTFest. It's a fantastic event. And what is your name? Arvita. Nice to meet you, Arvita. Welcome back. You're welcome. Oh, look at that. I'm gonna give you a ticket. You signed it already? Fantastic. Oh, listen, they only come out during SMARTFest. Really? Yes.
It's gonna be very cozy in here.
All right, folks, would you like to attend the Dynamite demo starting now?
How are you? Have a seat, make yourself comfortable. Like you're
Oh, wow.
I insisted. Actually, I'm not.
That's how cats feel, you know, like they're running the world. They're like, I made my human put out my litter box. They might have the parasite, but isn't cat feces that we take in? Sure.
Would you like to attend the Dynamite demo? It's starting right now. Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
It's not really.
Oh, good, good.
This is what I ultimately thought I was doing, but it's I'm gonna get through it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Because there are no. All right.
there's lots of evidence that everything, lots of other things.
I'm gonna
Yes, but it does.
get rid of this. I can't. I'll keep it out. Enable.
Irvin, I can put one up there.
Folks, would you like to attend the Dynamax demo? It's starting just now, it's only 20 minutes, rapid fire, so you can do something. Guys, Dynamax presentation, would you like to attend?
The speaker is incredibly entertaining.
Like the winner raffle.
I'm sorry? This is my first year. It's a wild time.
Really busy, yeah, which is great.
I love hearing wave people in. That's what I'm gonna do. Free pizza. Free pizza. Free pizza and a phenomenal talk.
That might be what.
What do you do?
I'm a graphic designer. Not exactly.
But it'll be very interesting and entertaining.
Okay.
What do you do?
I'm a grants administrator.
Wow.
Good talk, Al. 90 minutes, seminar is starting right now, the demo. It's only 20 minutes, it's about
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's just started, lunch just started.
I hear there's a bus load of people just being run off.
What are we open for?
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I don't know if I'm.
Well, I'm rough. If you sit next to me, I can ask questions.
Would you like to tell the
Sometimes it switches back, sometimes I get something that switches back.
So he,
Of course, when you're here, it's not gonna do it.
That's my wife.
oh,
There it is.
try to make it. So he does the demos and yeah. Train for a little more challenging. It looks like you got a great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you start,
I'm
and
gonna
then
start.
folks will come in. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sounds good, sounds good.
Got the reload. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming. My name is Chuck Posner. I am an emergency doctor. I worked at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. I was a faculty member at Harvard Medical School and associate professor. And I went to work for Dynametics about 2 years ago. And I haven't looked back. I mean, clinical work was fantastic until recently. And now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help clinicians manage their patients well and get home for dinner. I mean, that really is one of the major issues. Who here is what do people do then?
I'm an AI writer.
Oh, great.
Communications strategist.
I'm a librarian.
A librarian.
Science, laboratory, virology.
Commercial director for Elsevier.
Ah, you're
That's
here, you are
That's
here,
okay.
you are here, spy.
Yeah.
No, we actually get along really well with Elsa.
We tried, yeah.
Oh, you're the greatest guy in the world. This is he's almost godlike.
I'm a VA for research IT.
Fantastic.
I internal medicine and dermatology. I do patients.
Very good. And these people work in the library.
Safety advisor.
Excellent. So, has anybody ever heard of Dynametics?
Heard of Dynamed, but not.
Dynametics.
Yeah.
Dynametics is the next generation of Dynamed. So I had never heard of Dynamed either. When I went to work for Dynamed, I had never heard of it. And I worked for Up to Date. I did the chapters on resuscitation and Up to Date
Your
for
name seems to be.
18 years. And, they're both very, very good tools, but they're different. And they have different sort of, specialties, different value for particular people. And I'm just going to start. I do have a conflict of interest. I actually work for EBSCO Information Services. Okay, we're going to talk about the philosophy and background of our tool. I call it the magic sauce. We're going to talk about Dynametics and undergraduate medical education a little bit because it's Cornell and I figured we could do that. And we're going to talk about a couple of innovations that we just came out with that I think are going to be, one has been out for about 1.5 years that I think is really very helpful to clinicians. And the other is about to come out, probably unclear exactly when it's going to be out, but in the next several months it should be out, which is a AI-generated search function. Okay, so what is this marketplace like? So there are many, many, many tools out there. I used to be an editor.
Can I interrupt?
Certainly.
Is it okay if we have other vendors in here? I was told that your management. So I just wanted to make sure.
Tracy, that's her call. I work for her. What did she say?
Oh, no, that's okay. I don't want to cause any issues. No worries.
I honestly don't mind.
I'll come by later.
Awesome.
All right.
We'll talk.
No
I'll
worries.
give you a personal tour.
I'd love that. Thank you.
Okay, I'll leave it.
Half of my people.
I feel badly, but I knew there was one vendor I had to be careful.
I just do the talk. And
It just works.
I just work there. So the bottom line is there are many, many of these products on the market, and over the years, it really has dwindled down to 2 products. And these are the best products in the market. There's Dynametics and there's Up to Date. Dynametics is a combined tool with both medication and disease-related information as part of our compendium. But they're different. I want to sort of show you how I think they are different. And Up to Date is an encyclopedia. It's a textbook. And it's a textbook of many different specialties. It's written in prose, they have chapters. It's a very good tool. I wrote for them for many, many years. But that's what they are. And again, it's a very nice tool. Up to Date, Dynametics is the Washington Manual. Anybody ever heard of the Washington Manual? Okay, the Washington Manual, I did medicine and emergency medicine. The Washington Manual, when I was a medicine resident, stuck into my pocket. I could not carry Harrison's because it was way too heavy. Okay, and 80% of the time it had the answers I needed in the patient's room or at the point of care. When it didn't, I had to go to Harrison's. I had to go to another resource. But what we try to do is something called progressive disclosure. We want to give the clinician or the reader, the user, what they need at the time they need it. Sometimes all you're looking for is a quick answer. Sometimes you're looking for primary literature. So this is one of the differences. We try to give you the information up front. If you can't get it, we have the other information as well. We are as encyclopedic as is Up to Date. We have 13,000 different topics. We have 43 different specialties. And it's all vetted. It's all. I'll show you how we keep it current. But we're also Harrison's. We're also access to the primary literature. every one of our studies gets you to at least a PubMed abstract. And depending on the configuration of the way it's configured, we can get you all the primary literature. So what we're trying to do is give people what they need at the time they need it. And that's really, really important. How do we do this? Now, I will tell you, there are studies that support this, that we are the most current tool on the market. We are more up to date than up to date. How do we do that? We work with Mass University, okay, and they have a AI different resources, Cochrane reviews, journal articles, guidelines, and they will pull out the most relevant, rigorous. They will send it to us. We have subject matter experts around the world. We have in-house subject matter experts and statisticians who will vet that over and over again. We'll grade it. If it passes critical or practice change, we'll get it in. And you, as a user, can get all those sent to you by email. All the alerts sent to you. See, you get it. We don't have to send you. Check within the specialty. You get it. We don't have to send you. I don't get emails sent. I get too many emails. But that's how we can maintain